You are listening to Leaders Unedited with Keo.
Welcome to this episode of Leaders Unedited. I'm your host, Margit, and with me today I have Selina Torrance, who is the Executive General Manager, Member Experience at HBF. Welcome, Selina.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for chatting to us. Now, we met a few years ago, just a few. When you were HR Manager at Bankwest. And what I remember about that time is you were rapidly promoted into quite a large operational role. How did you manage that big jump at the time?
It was a big jump, but I guess for me, it was probably at that point in my career that I realised that the more senior the role that you're in, the more complex the business, that it is far more important to have good questions than to have all of the answers. And it was a real transition point for me from moving from a role where I was the technical expert, expected to have the answers, into a leadership role where I understood pretty quickly that the role that I had was to be curious and ask the right questions because I had good people around me that had the answers.
And that sounds quite radical for that time, because even now we're still challenging leaders to do exactly that. Don't feel that you need to know all the answers, ask the right questions. So that was pretty new at the time, I think.
Yeah, I think it is one of the learnings that I've had, which is it's okay to be vulnerable. It is okay to show vulnerability and be really open that you don't have all of the answers, but if we work on the questions together, we'll probably come up with the right answers.
That's a great approach. And I remember too, there were a couple of raised eyebrows at your promotion, because there are a few folks saying, you know, you've gone from an HR where you don't have this deep technical expertise in banking to a big operational role. How did you deal with the doubters?
Well, look, I guess I was one of the people that raised my eyebrows and also thought it was a risky decision. And I can remember talking to the managing director at the time and the general manager of human resources and letting them know that they'd picked the wrong person, that I didn't have any technical skills, I didn't have any banking experience, and I too felt that it was a really big, risky decision. But they looked at me and they said, we're not appointing you to this position because of your technical skills or your banking experience. We're appointing you to this role because you've got leadership skills and leadership potential. And we're right there behind you, supporting you. So it gave me a lot of confidence to step into the role and be curious.
Great. And so how long was it before you really felt that I deserve this, you know, I'm the right person for the role, they made the right decision to appoint me?
Margaret, I probably still don't necessarily see that even in the roles that I've been in for the last 20 years. I think that there's a natural part of me that always has that self-doubt or that nagging voice in the back of my mind. But I go into every role and every position just knowing that if I focus on getting the best people and getting the best out of people, that's where my skills come to the fore. So I think in doing it time and time again, in different roles, with different functions, in different industries, in different organisations, I probably have a bit of confidence now in terms of what that recipe is and how I should approach things.
And it's very reassuring that despite, you know, your amazing career, that you, like many others, still have some doubt. You're still a human being with some vulnerabilities.
Absolutely, and I think that is one of the learnings that I've had through my career is vulnerability is okay. It's not the same as weakness, and it is okay to show and share vulnerability.
And so at the time you went through an accelerated leadership development program. What was it about that program that might have helped you, set up your career?
So through that program, I had a lot of opportunity to explore the leadership attributes that I really admired and valued. And I guess that helped me to work through what were the leadership attributes that I aspired to have. And the key ones for me were around humility, optimism and authenticity. And those are probably the three that I take with me regardless of the role or the organisation. Those are the three that really mean the most to me and that I aspire to demonstrate at all times.
Fantastic. And now I know diversity is a really important aspect for you. You were one of the few female leaders, senior leaders in the organisation at the time. How was that challenge, and how has diversity evolved since that time?
So I was one of the only female executives back in those days. The upside was I never had to queue for the toilet in the executive floor. But I guess what I'm mindful of is that my male colleagues at that point had as much to contend with as I did. And in fact, they would often say that when there was no female in the room, no one noticed. When there was one female in the room, everybody realised just how underrepresented we were. But when my path now is to be a real champion and advocate for diversity and inclusion. And that is beyond just gender. I look back and think there were some things that I had to tackle and some obstacles throughout my career. But I have a homosexual son and I have a transgender son. And I'm really passionate about making sure that our community and our organisations value diversity and inclusion for all, not just for women, but for all of the people in our community that are underrepresented. We all deserve to feel included and valued when we go to work.
And how wonderful that you've got that lived experience that can really drive your passion to promote diversity in every aspect of your life.
Absolutely, it goes back to that that authenticity part that I talked about earlier. I can be authentic and I can talk about this really passionately because I truly, truly believe that there is value in diversity and inclusion for all people.
And so part of the whole diversity campaign is also looking at mental well-being, because a lot of people who don't feel they belong or are included in society clearly have some mental health challenges. Now, one of HBF's sayings is get well. So how do you go about promoting well-being in yourself and also with your team?
Yeah, so I think role modelling is important, but the one message I give to everybody, there's a lot of people that say, I'll exercise when I find time, or I'll look after me when I find time. But I'm a big believer in you never find time. If it's important, you have to make time. So for me, I make time. I wake up 5 o'clock every morning, I exercise every day, and that keeps me energised. It gives me energy to get through whatever the rest of the day holds. But it also means some of those other little luxuries that I like a glass of wine and some cheese, I'm able to do all of that because those things are also important for me, in having that full life. So I try to role model it, but I also encourage that message. You won't ever find time to look after yourself. You have to make time to look after yourself.
Sounds like you've really managed to get that lovely balance between, working hard and then looking after yourself as well. So I would, the message I give to people is that I don't necessarily believe in work-life balance. Okay.
For me, work is a subset of my life. So what I focus on is trying to be happy and get the most out of every single part of my life, of which a part of that is work. So I try and make sure that I get the most out of every single work day and workplace, and that helps me get fulfilment from life as a whole.
Fantastic. Now, I'm really interested in your current role, and I understand that HBF have done significant work around reimagining the member experience. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and the impact it's had?
Yeah, so at HBF, we're a member-based organisation. And I think that the power that comes with that, if I look at my career, is I'm working for an organisation that is all about purpose and not about profit. And when your purpose is to deliver for your members in the moments that matter, that's a really rewarding purpose. It's a really rewarding place to work. So when we're reimagining the member experience, we do that through the lens of our members. How do our members see us? How do they get value from us? What sort of service do they expect? And we do it through the member journey lens. But what's really powerful is that when we are trying to address pain points or solve for the member experience, we involve consumers, some members, but some are not HBF members, in the ideation or the reimagining of what those pain points and experiences could look like. So it's a great privilege to be part of a member-based organisation where you know that every decision you make is for your members, and it is all about the purpose.
So how did your leadership style change, if at all, from being in a big role in a profit-driven organisation to a member-focused organisation or a purpose-led organisation?
Yeah, so there is something that's very special and very rewarding when you work for a purpose-led organisation. And I don't necessarily think that my leadership changed, but people that want to work at a member-based or purpose-driven organisation often cite that as the reason that they've joined the organisation. It's not necessarily about the remuneration or the bonuses. It's very much about the alignment to the purpose and the values of the organisation. So as a leader, it's really important to make sure that everything you do demonstrates that. Your systems, your symbols is all about living the purpose and the values of the organisation.
And so what's next for Selina in terms of career, life? What are your dreams and hopes for the next few years, Selina?
I am loving life. I've been through a few years with personal, professional challenges like we all have, but in a really good place. And always people ask me, you know, what's next in my career? And my message back is that if you focus more on doing a great job rather than your next job will just automatically happen. And so that's where I'm at. I'm very, very passionate about doing a great job. I haven't actually applied for a job since about 1998. Every other job that's happened since then, someone's come and looked for me and searched for me. So that would be the biggest advice I'd have, is focus more on doing a great job than your next job, because in doing a great job, your next job will just come.
So Selina, based on your own personal experience, what would some of the advice be around, you know, diversity and inclusion and the programs that organisations are running currently?
So I think for me, and based on the experiences that I've had personally, is if people are comfortable in being authentic and bringing their true self to the workplace, you will actually get the best and the most out of them. So one of the bits of advice I would have is to create an environment where people feel comfortable being themselves and bringing their true and their best self to work. Because as leaders, that's how you actually get the best high-performing team.
And so on the subject of advice, if you were giving advice to your much younger self now, based on your wisdom and lived experience, what are the key bits of advice you would give a younger Selina?
I think it is about that authenticity, and always be yourself, always be true to yourself, and stay close to your moral compass when you're making decisions.
Fantastic. Selina, it's been so interesting speaking to you, and I love your principles of authenticity and humility, and that certainly comes through in our conversations. So I look forward to seeing you do a great job, and thank you again for talking with us.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.